now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. Amy Cooper, the woman known as the Central Park Karen, is now filing a lawsuit against her former employer, Franklin Templeton. Now, the Franklin Templeton organization decided to terminate your Amy Cooper after the video that went viral presented her calling the police on Christian Cooper, a gay black man, after he admonished her for having her dog off the leash in the Central Park Bramble, the bird sanctuary where no dogs are allowed and no dogs are allowed off a leash. Now, your Amy Cooper in her lawsuit is alleging that Franklin Templeton perpetuated and legitimized the story of Karen versus an innocent African American to its perceived advantage with reckless disregard for the destruction of the plaintiff's life in the process, and that the company would not have fired her if she were a different race and gender. And Amy Cooper is trying to file this case based on racial and sexual discrimination, which clearly shows how your Amy Cooper really has not learned her lesson, because when you take a critical examination of this lawsuit and what it is claiming, it shows how your Amy Cooper basically does not want to take any sort of accountability and does not want to take any sort of responsibility for any of the actions she participated in at the Bramble. Now, people like your district attorney, Cy Vance, they thought that by not pressing charges against Amy Cooper, they would be able to give her some sort of break. And they thought, oh, if she goes out here and takes some courses, she will have shown that she has reformed. But when we take a look at this lawsuit, it shows us how your Amy Cooper has absolutely no remorse and continues to act with malice of forethought as related to this incident and as related to how she sees black people. Because the only reason why your Amy Cooper went out here and called the police on your Christian Cooper was because he was a black man who had the nerve to go out here and admonish her for participating in behavior that was wrong. Because the only reason why she called the police on Christian Cooper was because he was a black man who she thought was beneath her, and she was going to go out here and not only put this black man in his place, but put him 6 feet under for having the nerve to go and tell her that she was doing something wrong. This is no different than what one of these racists would do during the days of Jim Crow. These white females would go out here, and when some black person said something to them, they were so offended by it, they would go out here and get the white men to go out here and kill that black person, all because they had the nerve to go out here and say something to them. But your Amy Cooper wants us to believe she's not a racist, and we can clearly see that she is a racist by her actions. Even though she says she's a part of the left, we can still see how racist she still is by her actions, and we can still see how little regard she has for black people, because she's sitting here talking about filing a lawsuit against this company for her actions and does not want to take any sort of accountability for those actions. Now, the company, your Franklin Templeton, had every right to terminate your Amy Cooper because she participated in behavior that was unprofessional. Because if your Franklin Templeton says that they do not tolerate racism of any kind, then they had every right to terminate your Amy Cooper, because your Amy Cooper clearly in that video was expressing racist behavior by calling the police on this black man for a crime that did not happen, because what she wanted to see was this black man put in prison at the minimum, and killed at the most extreme. And that's what she wanted to see by making that false 911 call to the police. She wanted to see this man lose his life, and she wanted to see him suffer. Unfortunately, your Christian Cooper, because he is a buck dancing bootlick, he doesn't really understand the gravity of the situation. And instead of him trying to hold this woman accountable, he went out here and gave your Amy Cooper a pass by going out here and accepting an apology, one, and then refusing to press charges, two. Here is a woman who is going out of her way to show how much she hates this man, and instead of him trying to hold this woman accountable to set a boundary for all black people and set legal precedent to protect black people's rights, instead he's out here talking about forgiveness and acceptance because he fears losing access to white people's social circles. He fears that if he goes out here and offends these white people by punishing this white woman, he will go out here and lose everything. But all he's getting at the end of the day is called a black brute by your Amy Cooper in this lawsuit, because in her, as she sees it, this whole situation led to her having severe emotional distress, but she was the one who was going to put Christian Cooper's life in danger and put his whole family's life in emotional distress, and she's making it all about her. And again, that shows us how narcissistic this female is, and her behavior is indefensible, inexcusable. She's sitting there trying to make excuses saying, I think I was just scared. No, you were not just scared. You wanted to go out here and kill this black man, all because he had the audacity to sit there and tell you you couldn't do something. That's the main reason why she was so upset about your Christian Cooper. And these claims are just, again, they're unsubstantiated claims, and this whole lawsuit is absolutely ridiculous, especially the part about this being racial discrimination. How is it racial discrimination when the white female has the most privileges in the United States? She is elevated to the highest position in society, and she has such power in this society that she can practically get away with crimes that she's committed, because that's what happened here when your Cy Vance refused to go out here and press charges against her. How are you being discriminated against when you've practically been given every privilege and more? I mean, that's the critical question Amy Cooper needs to be asked. How are you being discriminated against by this Franklin Templeton, by them firing you for violating their policy? How are you being discriminated against again when you, the white female, are the majority of the population in this country? You, the white female, have all of the privileges in this society. And with this gynocentric society, all the power has been given to you because you're the majority voters, you're the majority of the workforce, you're the majority as related to most of America's culture. How are you being discriminated against? Because the woman in American society is no longer a minority, no matter what people try to say as argue as related to so-called protected classes. When you are the majority of the population, you control a majority of the jobs, you control a majority of the votes. You are no longer being a minority that's being discriminated against as related to your gender and your skin tone. As a white female, you cannot claim discrimination as related to where you are, because there is no discrimination, and there is no defending absolutely egregious behavior like your Amy Cooper participated in, because that behavior was absolutely egregious. And what's really even more egregious is that this woman is not been held accountable for her actions and has not been punished for her actions, because she's sitting here talking about suing her employer for lost wages and punitive damages, and she doesn't even think about how she practically could have taken this man's life by making those false claims in that 911 call. Because by her making that call to 911, that false call, and she could have possibly cost Christian Cooper his life. And if it wasn't for his sister having the courage to put that video out here, this Amy Cooper would have been able to go on the next day participating in this indefensible behavior and thinking it's just okay for her to be this racist that she is. Because she's sitting here saying, oh, I'm not a racist, but only a racist is going to go out here and call the police on a man for a crime that did not happen, and do this only to sate her emotions because this man had the audacity to call the police on, not she had the audacity to tell her what she was doing was wrong. That's the only reason why she did this. And again, this is no different than your women during Jim Crow. She would go out here and say something happened in order to get these Ku Klux Klansmen riled up, and then those Ku Klux Klansmen would go out here and kill that black man, all based on her word. And your Amy Cooper goes out here and again she says that she's this tolerant leftist looking to be tolerant and accepting of other people, but it's clear that she's a racist who does not accept other people. And what the sad part is, even after taking all of the so-called classes that would help her supposedly be a better person, she continues to show us less than sterling character and continues to show us that she's learned absolutely nothing from this whole incident. And the main reason why she didn't learn anything from this incident is because we have bootlicking, buck dancing clowns like your Christian Cooper who go out here talking about forgiveness and talking about giving white females a pass in order to gain white acceptance, instead of holding a white female like this accountable and making her be punished for the actions she's participating in. It's enablers like him and your Cy Vance that allow white females like this to continue participating in their irresponsible, reckless, and racist and egregious behaviors. And it's guys like this who enable this behavior in these white females that enable them to continue being the racist they are. Because this woman would not have gotten out of line like this had a boundary been set by somebody with some backbone and some stones. And had there been somebody like that, we would have had a legal precedent that would have put these Karens in their place and let them know that there would be a clear line in the sand as related to how they treated black people. Unfortunately, your Christian Cooper was a bootlick and a buck dancing clown, and all he got at the end of the day was slapped in the face, because he's sitting there and after doing all this forgiveness, seeing all of the contempt your Amy Cooper continues to show him, because she basically in this lawsuit calls him a big black brute and says she was so scared of the big black man, that's why she called the police. So this again shows how little respect this white female has and how little this country has changed over the last 200 to 300 years, because even though your Amy Cooper was one of these leftists who supposedly voted for Barack Obama, she clearly shows how she's still much a racist overall. I mean, your leftists who are supposed to be so tolerant in this case are showing how racist they are. And what's really sad is that your Christian Cooper still doesn't get it, and in most of America still doesn't really see the real racist that this Amy Cooper is. And she's filing this lawsuit hoping to get damages and lost wages. And again, that just takes a lot of audacity. But the main reason why this woman has so much audacity is because men in society, whether they be black or white, won't hold this woman accountable for her actions. And because they continue to give her passes for her racist and egregious behaviors, she continues to escalate and continues to participate in even more egregious and reckless behaviors, like filing this, what she knows to be a frivolous lawsuit. And the main reason why she's going to file this lawsuit is because she knows that Franklin Templeton will probably try to settle with her out of court. But by settling with her out of court, all they're doing is continuing to enable the extremely dysfunctional and racist behavior in this white female and set a precedent for more white females to continue to believe it's okay for them to participate in reckless and egregious behaviors, because as long as there's some white man or some bootleg black men out here who will go along with them, and to get along, they can get away with all of these racist behaviors that white females have been getting away from, all the way back to the days of your Black Wall Street being destroyed, your Rosewood being destroyed, and the murder of Emmett Till. All of this only goes on because we have a series of white male and some bootleg black male enablers who refuse to draw the line on white female racism and hold these white females accountable and let them know that their racist behavior that they teach their children will not be tolerated, and they will be held accountable when they participate in that behavior. That's what we need from men out here, to set a hard boundary as related to these kinds of racists, because when we set a boundary with these kind of Karens like your Amy Cooper, then we can finally start working towards moving forward in this country. Unfortunately, here in America, we have too many people who want to be enablers of racists, because some want white access to white people as related to social currency. Others want access to white women as related to sexual access. And because of this, this is why your spoiled, entitled white female continues to think that her racist behavior is okay, and she passes it on from generation to generation. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, and my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to try some of my SJS Direct publications, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, The Thetas and A Recipe for Success, you can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them on Smashwords, the iBookstore, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella. Discover the dark side of love in this goth and lovely romance with Spinsterella. Get Spinsterella in paperback and e-readers at your favorite online bookseller today.